Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. Wishing you all an enjoyable listening experience. Today, I'm here to share a book with you, Chatter, by Ethan Kross. Dr. Ethan Kross is a leading expert in the field of understanding how to control the realm of consciousness. He is an award-winning professor at the University of Michigan and the Ross School of Business. He also serves as the director of the Emotion and Self-Control Laboratory. Dr. Kross has participated in policy discussions at the White House and has been featured on news platforms like CBS Evening News, Good Morning America, and NPR. His groundbreaking research has been published in the New York Times, The New Yorker, The Wall Street Journal, USA Today, New England Journal of Medicine, and Scientific American. In his research, he has discovered that self-talk, the inner dialogue we engage in, significantly affects memory, attention, and even our social abilities. This book delves into how to reduce the negative effects of this internal self-talk. While we are often encouraged to live in the present, a substantial portion of our lives, more than one-third, is spent immersed in self-dialogue. This is because we reflect, reminisce, and play out various scenarios in our minds. Our inner voice is an adaptation that makes humans the only interactive beings on Earth with the capacity for introspection. However, excessive introspection, often manifesting as negative self-talk, can become problematic when it comes to problem solving and making wise decisions. Luckily, our brains possess the tools necessary to mitigate such self-talk. This book will guide you in transforming your harshest critic into your closest friend. By reading this book, you will gain insights into various strategies that help distance you from introspective self-dialogue. It explores connecting with nature as a means of recovering experiences, finding suitable advisors to aid in problem solving, and understanding the internal voice that we all engage with. Humans have developed this inner voice, enabling us to assess our past and prepare for the future. We must admit that we all engage in self-talk. What's astounding is the speed at which we do so. A study published in 1990 analyzed the speed at which people engage in internal speech, estimating it to be around 4,000 words per minute. Speaking these words aloud would take nearly an hour. For a long time, our inner voices have troubled humanity. Early Christian mystics and Buddhist practitioners in China were frustrated by their inner voices interrupting their meditations. Equally fascinating, people who stutter report being able to hear their inner voices clearly, while deaf individuals use sign language for their self-talk. Clearly, our inner voice is an intrinsic part of our thoughts, but why do we engage in self-talk? According to the rules of natural selection, self-talk comes hand in hand with an evolutionary advantage. Unlike other species, we find meaning in our experiences. This is because our inner voice facilitates our capacity for introspection, enabling us to learn from mistakes and plan for the future. We cultivate this inner voice during infancy, and it aids in self-control as we learn to speak. Toddlers in the learning phase often engage in self-talk aloud. Russian psychologist Lev Vygotsky believed that children learn to manage their emotions by imitating parental instructions, eventually transitioning to self-control using their own language. As adults, our inner voice helps us track our goals, whether it's striving for a promotion or winning the heart of someone special. Verbalized thoughts spring forth, reminding us of our objectives. We also engage in psychological simulation, considering various messages we could send to someone we're infatuated with and the potential outcomes. Ultimately, our inner voice contributes significantly to how we shape our identities. Through introspection and reflection, we craft meaningful narratives about ourselves, fostering a strong sense of identity that aids us in maturity, understanding our values, and navigating tumultuous periods. Self-dialogue habitually interferes with our normal lives in this world. Which one is easier to remember, 800-520-6755 or 800-520-6755? The former, right? That's because it consists of only 3 pieces of information, whereas the second group is a sequence of 10 consecutive digits. This is a classic example illustrating that our brain can only hold 3 to 5 pieces of information at any given moment, and that's under optimal conditions. If there's too much self-dialogue, our thinking tends to slow down significantly. The executive functions of our brain work somewhat like a computer, allowing us to focus on relevant things and filter out distractions, shifting our attention to the task at hand, whether it's composing an email or preparing a sumptuous dinner. These functions come into play when instincts alone aren't sufficient to drive our behavior. However, like a computer, they can only handle so much data at a time. When we over-reflect, we deplete the neurons required for executive function. If you've ever tried to concentrate on reading a book immediately after a heated argument with your partner, you've experienced this. Under higher levels of stress, self-dialogue can indeed become a hindrance. Besides impairing our executive functions, self-dialogue also obstructs our social relationships. In the 1980s, psychologist Bernard Rhyme discovered that we're compelled to talk about our negative thoughts. In other words, when there's too much self-dialogue within us, we feel compelled to vocalize it. Ironically, the more we share with empathetic friends, the more distant we become from them. After all, relationships require listening from both sides. But individuals submerged in intense negative emotions often don't know when to stop talking. Worse yet, prolonged self-dialogue can have adverse effects on our health. In 2007, a researcher conducted a study using functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, and found that physical and emotional pain are triggered in the same part of the brain. Emotional pain, just like physical pain, leads to stress. Although stress is an adaptive response that helps us deal with emergencies, self-dialogue can make it chronic. Numerous studies indicate that chronic stress leads to cardiovascular diseases and cancer. In essence, excessive self-dialogue results in severe negative consequences. The more self-dialogue consumes us, the more we express it, the more our lives become isolated and painful. The quickest way to cease self-dialogue is to maintain a certain distance. In 1841, Abraham Lincoln encountered some emotional difficulties. He was about to get married but fell in love with another woman. A year later, Lincoln entered a happy marriage and began a new life. However, his friend Joshua Speed faced a similar predicament. Given that the troubles of the past had lingered for a while, Lincoln easily offered advice to Speed. This is because distancing oneself from self-dialogue is the simplest way to solve this issue. Self-dialogue magnifies emotions as we focus on the problem, leading to exhaustion, which in turn results in depression and anxiety. Our stress response gets activated, and in the search for a crisis resolution, we increasingly magnify it. Imagine a negative memory of yours as a video on your phone. Now imagine the situation happening to someone else while you are merely an observer in the room. The author refers to this as the third-person perspective. Participants using this method in various studies gained clearer insights into their problems and exhibited lower levels of stress and emotional response in the brain. In a study before the 2008 U.S. presidential election, participants were asked to imagine living in another country where the candidate they chose failed. As a result, these participants were more inclined to cooperate with supporters of the opposing candidate. Another study on the realm of emotions found that participants who imagined the situation happening to a friend were more likely to suggest compromise with an unfaithful partner. Another useful technique of perspective taking is temporal distance. Suppose a work deadline is causing you significant stress. Imagine how trivial this matter would be 10 years from now. This helps you put things in the right perspective. The author found that temporal distance works for stressors of all sizes. For instance, imagining various historical epidemics coming and going can help you realize that the COVID-19 pandemic will also pass, and everything will return to normal. Over time, learning to view yourself with a longer-term perspective, just as you view others, makes you wiser. This is because wisdom is built upon the ability to focus on the bigger picture and acknowledge the limitations of our knowledge. Treating yourself as you would treat others helps you distance yourself from self-dialogue. In 1979, children's television show host Fred Rogers wrote a letter to himself. It began with, "Am I fooling myself?" and continued with a series of accusations and doubts about his ability to produce good television programs. However, something interesting happened at the end of the letter. He wrote, "Time to stop. You must do this. Quickly." Why did Mr. Rogers use the third person when addressing himself? Unbeknownst to him, he was practicing a form of self-dialogue with psychological distance. This technique has been proven several times to reduce shame and embarrassment, decrease stress, and promote wiser reasoning. It all starts with using your name. Usually, our inner dialogue takes the form of first-person singular. For example, we might wonder why we got so angry before or why we acted foolishly. Self-dialogue is closely connected to rumination. For instance, a study found that by analyzing the frequency of self-referential language people posted on Facebook, depressive episodes could be predicted. However, the author's research revealed that when people address themselves using second or third-person pronouns or even their own name, emotional fluctuations decrease. Using an electroencephalogram (EEG) to measure this technique's effectiveness, the author was surprised by how rapidly it worked. The EEG recorded a reduction in emotional activity within a single second of engaging in self-dialogue with psychological distance. Returning to Mr. Rogers' situation, through self-dialogue with psychological distance, he redefined the threat of failure as a challenge. Challenges, unlike threats, are something a person can handle. This not only minimizes self-dialogue, but also, as research suggests, has an impact on cardiovascular levels. When people feel stressed, their arteries tend to constrict. However, with a challenge mindset, they relax more. Lastly, let's not forget the universal you. This is a directive for normative, not individual, behavior. For instance, phrases like, "you should step back" or "you should calm down," are often heard, especially in post-game interviews with athletes discussing how they played. We can replace the individual you with the universal you for the difficulties everyone faces. Doing so allows us to take a step back, gain new perspectives, and quell self-dialogue. To reduce self-dialogue, we need to address both our emotional and cognitive needs simultaneously. In 2008, following the shooting incidents at Northern Illinois University and Virginia Tech, researchers from the University of Illinois explored how students coped with grief. They found that most students joined Facebook groups to share their emotions online. Although participating in these groups brought a sense of comfort, it didn't reduce their long-term depression and symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. But why is this the case? Aren't we taught that sharing our emotions is healthy? This was what both Aristotle and Freud believed, as they encouraged individuals to evolve from their inner pain. We learn this even as infants, crying until our needs are met by our parents. So why does sharing our feelings make us feel worse? When we're feeling down, we seek comfort because it makes us feel safe. This is how we fulfill our emotional needs. When those needs are met, our brain produces a series of feel-good chemicals. The problem is, to deal with self-dialogue, we not only need support but also someone who can provide a perspective on the situation. Unfortunately, when we're in pain, we often value empathy over viewpoint. Those we turn to for help often agree with this approach. This practice is called co-rumination. We detail the situation, they express condolences and sympathy, but as we revisit what happened, the negative aspects of it become more pronounced. They ask more probing questions and so on. The solution to this is to find people who support us and can help us gain some perspective on the situation. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, hostage negotiation offers a good example of striking this balance. Their strategies recommend building rapport through positive listening and empathy to induce behavioral change. In other words, when seeking support from loved ones, look for those who can help you find solutions rather than encouraging you to dwell on the issue. Also, remember that while discussing family matters with your sibling might be helpful, they might not be the best choice for discussing work-related issues. So, try to create an advisory panel that can assist you in handling self-dialogue in various aspects of life. Integrating with the external world helps reduce self-dialogue. In the 1990s, Ming Kuo, a researcher at the University of Illinois, discovered that people living in Chicago housing projects with windows facing green landscapes had better concentration, focus, and positive thinking. Subsequent research in the UK and Canada supported these findings, indicating that exposure to green spaces makes people happier. Why is this so? Nature has a unique way of capturing our attention, diverting us from self-dialogue, and rejuvenating us. However, not all forms of attention are the same. In fact, there are two types, active and passive attention. Active attention requires conscious engagement, like playing word games or driving. Due to this, active attention consumes your energy and can even leave you exhausted. On the other hand, passive attention is triggered when something captivates you, such as a beautiful sunset. This actually helps restore your energy. In the 1970s, psychologists Stephen Kaplan and Rachel Kaplan proposed that exposure to nature helps restore people's sustained attention. Why? Nature involuntarily captures your focus, filling you with awe, a powerful and transcendent emotion that helps you move beyond yourself. This resets your levels of active attention. Since then, numerous studies have supported Kaplan's research, indicating that brief walks in nature help individuals perform better on subsequent cognitive tests. This makes sense. After all, if you can't concentrate and maintain active attention, how can you persist in using techniques to manage self-dialogue? We're not only awed by nature. Watching an incredible music concert or making the first sale can evoke the same feelings. Another way to break free from self is by instilling some order. Take tennis champion Rafael Nadal, for instance. He has a set of habits on the court, like arranging water bottles correctly. By channeling attention into organizing his physical environment, he calms the chatter in his mind. The benefits of infusing order extend beyond feeling in control during high-stress situations. It fosters belief in your capability to achieve goals and influences the effort you put in. One of the simplest and most effective methods is organizing your physical space. This is something to consider the next time you contemplate postponing cleaning your room. If we believe something will make us feel better, it often does. In 1777, Franz Mesmer used what he called animal magnetism, a technique involving magnets and a lot of theatrics, to cure blind pianist Maria Parodi. At least, that's how it seemed. Mesmer was eventually exposed as a charlatan, and his technique's only true effectiveness was in demonstrating the power of the placebo effect. While placebos are typically used in medical research, objects imbued with power have long been part of human tradition. As far back as the Middle Ages, people believed that King Solomon's seal could ward off magic. Today, people are still drawn to lucky charms. For example, Michael Jordan always wore his old college shorts under his uniform. According to research, placebos, whether in pill form or as totems, can alleviate physical and emotional symptoms. Why? Because the human brain loves predictions. Even a successful walk is based on prediction. You know where you can safely place your foot. When you take a pill to alleviate a headache, you tell yourself that it will bring relief. That's when your inner voice begins to shift. We've learned many such beliefs from family and culture, often in the form of rituals. Think about various funeral rites, from wakes to memorial services. They help people cope with grief. People also create their own rituals. For instance, Wade Boggs rolled 150 ground balls before every game, or Steve Jobs spoke to the mirror every day. The author refers to these as a cocktail to reduce self-dialogue, as they reduce it on multiple levels. Firstly, routines divert our attention away from the issue, reducing anxiety. Because rituals are within our control, they provide a sense of order. Lastly, the meaning behind rituals helps connect us to our inner values and community, making us feel less isolated. Rituals are easy to establish. For instance, when the author feels stuck at work, he habitually washes dishes, a simple way to sidestep pressure and self-dialogue. In the end, all these techniques strive to distance you from self-dialogue. While self-dialogue may be an inevitable part of your inner voice, there's no reason to let it take control of your life. Lastly, let's summarize the main content of this book. No matter how bad your emotions may seem, or how negative your thoughts are, if you can manage to create some distance between yourself and your self-dialogue, things will always become a little easier. You can achieve this by reshaping your thoughts or changing your environment. Lastly, looking at the issues with a broader perspective will surely make them seem trivial. Additionally, the author provides a small suggestion: writing a self-expression diary. Research has found that jotting down negative experiences can provide relief. This is because writing as if you're the narrator helps you distance yourself from the things that trouble you. So, the next time negative thoughts start to wrap around you, sit down and spend 20 minutes writing them out. You'll definitely feel better. Well, that concludes the powerful inner self-dialogue habits of Ethan Kross. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you all for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom with practice, achieve our financial goals, and create a better future together. Thank you all, and goodbye.